Well, it has to do with what we were talking about just a few minutes ago, which is these BLM riots that occurred and how they caused way, way more damage than the January 6th incursion at the Capitol. So I think that it was Jack Del Rio. He's a defensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, as we are supposed to call them now. And he was discussing, I think, honestly, in pretty fair terms, the coverage and the reaction to the BLM riots in 2020 versus the January 6, 2021 incursion that occurred at the Capitol. I'll go ahead and play the clip for you of him discussing this, and then I'll kind of explain what the controversy was.
Livelihoods are being destroyed. Businesses are being burned down. No problem. And then we have a dust-up at the Capitol. Well, there's nothing burned down. And we're not going to talk about, we're going to make that a major deal. I just think it kind of two standards. And if we apply the same standard and we're going to be reasonable with each other, let's have a discussion. That's all it was. Let's have a discussion. We're Americans. Let's talk it through. I'm for us, having a great opportunity to have a fulfilled life. Like I said, every which way I can. When I'm here, it's about love and respect.
So never in that clip, not a single time does he say that we should be allowed to break the law, that we should be allowed to go vandalize the Capitol, anything like that. What he's saying is that the BLM riots were astronomically worse than the incursion at the Capitol, and he did once refer to the January 6th incursion as a dust-up, which, honestly, we can sit here and debate whether or not that's a fair characteristic, but compared to the BLM riots, it certainly is fair. If you look at a BLM riot and the damage that it caused, and you look at the Capitol incursion, it's probably less than a dust-up in comparison to what happened over the summer in 2020 following George Floyd's death. So we can debate that all day, but the point is he was trying to make a point about BLM riots and how destructive they were. And what he said was, if we're going to investigate January 6th, we should also be investigating BLM. Not that we should just let all of it slide, but that we should investigate both things. Instead of focusing on that very real point that he was making, I think very logical point that he was making, the left decided to focus on the one time that he referred to January 6th as a dust-up and say that he was now a threat to democracy because he was minimizing what happened that day, calling it a dust-up when it was really a threat to democracy and an insurrection. And so it didn't stop at leftist outrage. It actually made its way all the way up to the head coach of the Washington Commanders, Ron Rivera, who fined Jack Del Rio $100,000 for saying that it was a dust-up. Now, even if you don't agree that it was a dust-up, even if you are deranged and you somehow think that the Capitol incursion was actually worse than the BLM riots, you would be wrong. But even if you believe that, that doesn't take away Jack Del Rio's right to be able to say that. I don't understand. It's not like he was going out there. If he was going out there and saying, we need to overturn the government, we need to have a real insurrection at January 6th, like, okay, that's probably crossing the line. He was just characterizing what he saw happen at the Capitol versus what he saw happen during the summer of 2020, and he was fined for it. You can't even say things. You can't even put your opinions out there anymore. It's incredible to me.
It's not like he was saying, this is the official opinion of the Washington Commanders, that we think this about January 6th. I mean, this was him talking. And I would go so far as to argue that who fined him? The head coach?
The head coach
I'd
fined
say
him.
The head coach is a greater threat to the country, to democracy, than January 6th for fining a guy $100,000 for using his right to free speech.